Great. It looks like we are streaming live at this
Yeah.
point. Prior to starting the meeting, I want to acknowledge the City of Albany Industrial Development Agency board members who are present. This is Sarah Reginelli, CEO of the IDA. We have Marco Palca, CFO of the IDA, and then acting as staff through Capitalize Albany Corporation. We have Tom Conoscenti, Andy Corcione. We also have Ashley Mull present, Tammy Fanfa, Virginia Rollins is present as well from the Capitalize Albany team. We have Amy Levine here as General Counsel and Joe Scott here as Special Counsel to the agency, present on today's Zoom for the meeting. And with that, Darius, I would turn it over to you as Chair of the Finance Committee.
All right. Well, that calls meeting to order. First thing we'll do is a roll call, correct?
Please.
I'm here, Darius Schonfar, Dominic Casolaro. Say here. Everybody unmute. All right. Tracy Metzger.
Here.
Jakeen Hogue. Not here. Lee Eck.
Here.
And Dominic, have you unmuted yet?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Dominic's here. Susan Petto, I believe, who's not on the Finance Committee, is also joining us. Is Bob Schofield there? All right. So with that, I'll just move into the Finance Committee agenda. The minutes having been previously distributed for review, I call for a motion to dispense with the reading and approval of those minutes as presented.
So
So
moved.
moved.
All right, Lee and Tracy. Is there any discussion, any corrections? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Any opposed? Okay. We'll move right into the report from the Chief Financial
Oh,
Officer.
Dominic, yeah, just so you know, I'm abstaining because I was at the last meeting. So
Okay,
I'm not voting on the minutes. Okay. Okay.
thank you. So move into the report of the Chief Financial Officer. Mark.
Thanks, Darius. So in front of you is the quarterly financials for March 30, quarter ended March 31st. As you can see, total revenues are 265,000 versus a budgeted 404. The variance is just based on this timing of closings. We just basically take the fee that we approved last year and just divided it by 4 for each quarter, not knowing, because we didn't have any projects that at the time that we knew that were going to close. On the expense side, the expenses are 194,000 versus 213, so we're under budget there. So for the first quarter, the IDA had a positive net income of 70,000 versus the budget of 190,000.
Terrific. All right. So with that, we'll move into new business, which I guess there's no new business to report or unfinished business to report. So we'll move on to other business, which for the agency update and our COVID response and New York State legislation and the IDA website.
Great,
So,
thanks,
Sarah?
Darius.
Yep.
Thank you, Darius. To start, we'll talk a little bit about the response to the COVID-19 pandemic. That is obviously having significant impact here. The focus currently, as it should be, is on public health and wellness and flattening the curve. And so we've been obviously doing what we can as an organization to ensure that we're not only cooperating with the non-essential business physical closures, but also continuing our operations to limit the economic impact that this will have moving forward, keeping both the Capitalize Albany team as well as the IDA functions moving throughout this sort of critical time. In addition to that, because we are the organization charged with economic development for the City of Albany, we've been very active in convening local partners to collaborate on a response to COVID-19. I hope all of you have seen already the Support Smallbany website and hashtag on social media. venues. We've been really working with all of the bids, as well as the Chamber of Commerce, Albany County, the Community Loan Fund, the Small Business Development Center through the University of Albany, and many other partners at all levels of government as well, to tackle sort of four main areas in support of local businesses. The first is convening all those partners to ensure that we're sharing information. Everybody stays as up to date as possible on response efforts and new information as things do change daily related to this. So we've been holding conference calls and Zooms multiple times a week to be able to share information. We've also been collecting all of that information in one place, which is the Support Small Albany website, so that everything that small business owners should know is all in one place, and they don't have to search through 1,000 different information venues to be able to understand the resources available to them, as well as the information they need to know for their businesses. We've also been working together to identify existing resources, financial resources for businesses at this time. And we've compiled all of that information at the Support Small Albany website to allow businesses to have better ease of access to that information. So that's all up on the website as well. Advocacy is another area that the Support Small Albany group has been charged with, and so we've been taking on suggestions from the business community and bringing them to the different levels of government where they're pertinent. So whether that is the pickup parking areas created through the Business Improvement District citywide for restaurant takeout. We're looking at legislation related to cafe seating. We're looking at advocating on behalf of insurance changes to allow this pandemic to be covered under existing insurance policies. It's really, it runs the gamut, but being able to convene those advocacy issues and bring them to the government levels necessary to get things moving there, and it's been a very effective branch. Where we're moving into, as well as sort of the fourth priority area on looking forward toward recovery, and when folks can get back open, having the resources in place to be able to do that. So we're looking at any gaps where federal and state resources may not be able to cover, if there are local avenues to be able to pitch in and help with small business stabilization as well as recovery. But then also, as we come out of this, what is our reopening strategy as we find a new normal and businesses need to navigate how to reopen in a challenging environment. So we're focused on that as well. That area in particular is a place where the Industrial Development Agency may be able to help going forward. I think you may have seen in the news the potential for IDA financial resources to be opened up in the future. We haven't seen anything concrete on that yet, but in the event that that is available to us, we have been working on establishing program guidelines that would comply with all of the regulations necessary for industrial development agencies and economic development organizations, so that if that does become available to us, we'd be able to stand up a program or multiple programs very quickly to be able to address the needs of our local business community. I don't have a lot more depth right now because, again, those regulations haven't come out. That ability for IDAs to use their resources outside of normal protocol has not come out yet. We may be in a better position at our board meeting next week to talk through some potential uses of funding, should we have additional guidance before then, or we may be in a position where we would be looking to call a special meeting of the agency to discuss potential programming of IDA resources going forward. So I want that to make sure that that's on everybody's radar. Is something that we're working on internally to just get prepared for the eventuality that we'd be able to use those resources to do some good in the community on the small business side.
I just want to say that I'm excited about having the opportunity to use our, what we'll say is excess funds to help our community today and, obviously in the future for recovery. Those funds have been locked up for years. So sure hoping that we see that executive order, shortly.
This is Sarah?
Sure.
Dominic.
Go ahead, Dominic.
Yeah, I was wondering if, are we getting prepared too for a slew of extension resolutions too, for like sales tax and everything, since the construction has pretty much come to a halt for these projects?
That's a great question.
Oh.
We are looking right now. Andy's been working through anyone who is coming up close on needing an extension related to sales tax exemptions, as well as to closing on projects moving forward. So we're on top of that. Andy has also reached out directly to every active project that we have, both actively under construction as well as in the pipeline applications that we've seen as a group in moving forward. So thank you for that. We are on top of that, and we expect if any changes are necessary, that we'll be coming back to you all with those.
Okay, that's good.
It's my understanding that the hotel downtown being built by Pioneer, they have put that construction project on hold, even though they didn't need to.
We have been talking with most of the groups, and the early guidance on what was deemed essential versus non-essential left quite a bit of the discretion up to the local area to determine those patterns. What we've seen coming out since is construction on essential businesses would be allowed to go forward. What we've heard directly from most of the construction teams underway is really it's a question of can they maintain safety of the site, both from a construction standpoint,
Sure.
which needs to be allowed to move forward to button up a site so that it isn't a public hazard, but also from a job site health and wellness perspective. And so individual projects may be making decisions to close down their site from a workforce health and wellness standpoint.
Understood. Understood. Just wondering.
We do, and I just
early
want to.
indication- Go ahead.
Sorry,
Go ahead,
I want to make it just something else clear related to the essential nature of construction versus when a project needs to close down or is able to keep moving forward. We are receiving calls as Capital Revolving Corporation. We are receiving calls throughout the week related to job sites that continue to be under construction. Again, many of those sites have been working directly with the city's codes department to determine what additional work needs to be done to create a safe site. And so those are things like fire alarm installation and other job site needs that need to be in place. And so they're working directly with codes. So folks may see some people on site in the near future. They may be working through a punch list of safety related items. We do encourage people to call just to be sure, but know that there may still be some workforce on sites, even if they're non-essential construction sites, just getting those properties cleared up for safety. Sorry, Darius.
Yeah, I just any early indications on a softening in the rental markets that might affect a lot of these projects that we have and maybe in the pipelines.
We haven't seen anything related to a softening in the rental market yet. This is a changing scenario every day, and new impacts are coming out every day. So we are trying to keep pace with national trends and our national partners and organizations to be able to identify any of those risks going forward and be able to put measures in place. So far, the conversation, we haven't seen that. We expect that there will be additional impacts as this moves forward, and we'll just get as prepared as possible and to keep monitoring those national publications and organizations to help us identify those before they come to Albany.
Great. Any other questions on the COVID-19 response or issues? All right, on to the New York State legislation. I guess we have a prevailing wage law that was set in place.
We do, and you all have been provided an update memo from Hudson Russ on the matter to be able to sort of work through the ins and outs, an early review of that legislation. Joe Scott, I don't know if you want to go through a little bit of an overview or if you just want to take questions from folks. I'll leave it up to you.
Sure, Sarah, thank you. I can speak briefly on the client alert and then open it up for questions, bearing in mind that the legislation is relatively new, obviously, and we're studying it and getting into the weeds to figure out exactly what it means. I hope each of you has the client alert handy, because what I'm going to do is walk through it very quickly, and I'm going to walk through it in a different way. I'm going to start at the end and go backwards, and you'll see why immediately. If you go to the last page under the subheading effective date, the effective date of this legislation is January 1, 2022. So the good news is that we have some time to figure out what it all means. The second point that I'd like to highlight is if you go up to the third page and you see the subheading Public Subsidy Board, there's a board created to look at all of this and to make some decisions about compliance, effectiveness, and restrictions. And they are requested to begin work basically immediately to begin that process. So not only are we going to be looking at this, but this Public Subsidy Board will be looking at the legislation to determine what the actual rules are going to be, and how it's all going to be rolled out. So there's a lot of, I guess I would say, uncertainty, if you will, on one level with respect to this legislation. The last item that I'd like to highlight is, the next to last item is, if you go to, again, on that same page, the subheading exceptions, there are a number of exceptions. They're lengthy, they're complicated, and we're going through them to make sure we, number one, understand them, and then are able to convey that understanding to you so that you can make some decisions with respect to the application of the law. Lastly, if you go to page 1, I'll just talk about covered projects for a second. Covered projects, it's the first subheading, are projects where the project cost is over $5 million and where the benefit, if you will, is equal to at least 30% of those construction project costs. So there is a test with respect to the application of the law, and it appears, at least on its face, and again, that's subject to the review of the Public Subsidy Board, that it will apply to only larger projects, namely projects 5 million or over, and projects which have a significant amount, 30% or over, of public subsidy. With respect to the calculation of that subsidy, and this is my last point, if you look under the subheading Public Funds and you look at the second bullet, it's a very broad definition of what constitutes the public assistance. Tax abatements, which is what you would otherwise think would be part of the calculation. Also part of the calculation is, if you look in the first line, is interest rates. So if we're doing a tax exempt bond issue, we need to calculate the differential between taxable and tax exempt rates. At least that's what the statute appears to require us to do. And that will be part of the quote subsidy, if you will, for purposes of determining whether you meet that 30% test. So our initial reaction to this is that there will be some financial analysis that we're going to have to do at the onset, working with Andy and his team to, determine, kind of like a fork in the road as to whether the project is or is not subject to this requirement. And again, that's all in the context of what the Public Subsidy Board does, and further with respect to the effective date, which is January 1, 2022. And with that, I'll open it up for any comments or questions.
This would apply to CRC as well?
The answer to that is, and I'm sorry, Darius, the answer to that is yes,
Okay,
because, and I don't have that in here, do I? Let's see.
I just wasn't sure because it has applicability to IDAs, and I just wasn't sure if
Right.
You mentioned with the savings achieved by low interest rates
right,
in particular.
that prompted my question, yes.
Yes, if you, I'm sorry, if you go to, sorry, the heading at the bottom, at least on mine, there's a page break. It's applicability to the IDA is the subheading. If you go to that paragraph underneath that, it's a paragraph just above exceptions. It does include local development corporations. So the answer to that is yes. And I apologize for not having that right off the top. Chris Canada did the first cut of this, and candidly, this legislation came out and there was a lot of attention devoted to it when it first came out in the governor's budget. To be honest, it's been somewhat quiet. And the combination of that together with the pandemic, we haven't really been highly focused on this.
Well,
But
frankly, Joe, I'm outraged.
The short answer is yes.
I'm outraged, Joe.
Duly noted. Duly
I
noted.
wag my finger at you from afar.
Yeah, that is also back to Joe's point about we have some time to get this figured out. We also have to let the review board have time to digest it and make any changes they determine would be appropriate. There are so many questions on this too. I think Joe brought up a really great example of, we would need to do analysis to determine whether a project did receive more than 30% in the aggregate. Then the question is, who is monitoring that? Would it be the IDA that monitors the prevailing wage participation, or would it be the other public sources? Because again, most of the projects that come through us have a patchwork of sources that they're using from public arenas to be able to just simply move forward with construction in the city of Albany. So there are so many questions out there, but this has been really helpful to have the client memo early on to just at least give us a snapshot of what we will be preparing for over the next 18 months or so.
Yeah, it seems like it'll be very complicated to make some of the calculations, especially for tax abatements as opposed to direct subsidy, which we don't do. So, all right. Any other questions anybody has? All right, then let's move on to the IDA website enhancements.
Oh, Tracy, were you trying to jump in?
I was, but I was on mute. So thank you.
You may speak.
I just wanted to confirm that the effective date relates to the application date, Joe?
Let's see, just one second. No, it's actually the closing date.
So talk me through that.
Well, we go to the last page. Effective date, when signed into law by the governor, will go into effect on January 1, 2020, and will apply to contracts for construction executed, incentive agreements executed, et cetera, on or after such date, which is January 1, 2022. So what that means in layman's terms is that any straight lease deal, using the simple example, any straight lease deal closing after January 1, 2022 will be affected by this. Anything up to that point will not be affected. So presumably the advice that people will be giving their clients is close your transaction no later than December of 2021, if you want to avoid any question whether you're subject to this law.
Sure, thank you. So I just want to confirm that, yeah.
Yep.
All right. Next subject.
We are very proud to announce that the IDA website enhancements are live on the website now. I think most of, if not all of you on the call have seen a little bit of a preview of this. So Virginia has pulled up what you can see if you go to the IDA's website now. Right on the homepage, you can click to to start a search, and that will bring up all of our recent projects and the information available to them. Something, again, that we've had as a priority for quite a while now. It's very helpful to have Ashley, Mike, and Virginia jump in on this, and Virginia really take on the bulk of getting all of that information here at everyone's fingertips. So you can see as she's scrolling through just the amount of information that's available for each project, as well as the organization of all of that sort of deep documentation that otherwise folks would have to sort of sift through all of our documents to get to. Again, it's right at everyone's fingertips at this point. So major kudos to the team for pulling this off. It's something that, again, we like to geek out about because as you all know, as a board, the value of having this information available and organized in such a user-friendly way. Virginia, I don't know if you wanted to say anything else about that.
No, I think you covered it. I actually, right before the meeting, had a friend go on the website just to see like the user friendliness of it. And obviously she's not familiar with the IDA or, what the website entails. But she did give me positive feedback. So I would say that, it is user friendly, and all the information is there.
Normal people can figure it out.
Have we actually issued a press release on this yet? I know
Not
it's
yet.
brand new, but we will.
We will.
Awesome. It's very nice, very nice.
And a very difficult and time consuming to do. So it really is terrific.
I agree.
All right. That's wonderful.
Really excited about it.
Yeah. I think a lot of folks will be too, who hanker for more information on the projects.
We know it too.
Yeah. Any other questions or observations on the website? All right, compliance update. 2019 annual compliance.
All right, we'll move into that. Andy, do you want to jump in or do you want me to cover it? Either way.
Sure, I can give a quick overview and Mark and Sarah just fill in any gaps. So I think the real great headline is that we've been able to submit our annual compliance on time prior to the March 31st deadline to the ABO through the Paris system. Large thank you to Mark and Virginia for working through this, especially working through the most critical piece of it, the last kind of 15% remotely. So thank you. We have all of our straight lease projects reporting into us, with the exception of two projects that we're aware of that are going through litigation. And we are only missing one IDA bond jobs compliance form. We've been in touch with that entity. We expect that will come in and we will submit that. So we do anticipate being able to go back into the system and complete the compliance reporting in the coming days.
Right. Are you aware of any tolling of the statute dates? Basically, reporting dates are being put off for anything by the state?
Yeah, I think the dates were extended. Is that correct, Joe Scott?
They were for the ABO filing. The governor authorized the ABO to extend that date. So there is an extension of that March 31 filing date.
Yeah. Okay.
We were very glad to be able to hit the original date with all of this so that we could turn our attention to the programming, but also, again, thanks to the team and also thanks to the board for being so quick to jump on and get up to speed with technology to be able to run our last meeting to get those approved before the deadline so that we could just move forward in normal pace with those. So thank you to everybody on that.
Terrific. Any other questions, comments? Any other orders of business?
I have one other thing. You'll see a new face on your screen for Zoom. The board, I know that you had all received an email last week welcoming Tom Conoscenti onto the team at Capitalized Albany Corporation as our vice president. He's here with us this afternoon as well. Has an extensive background in economic development, particularly relevant to real estate, and has already been a very quick study of all three organizations that we work for and with, and very excited to have him on board.
Welcome aboard.
Hi, Tom. Nice to meet you. Thank you for coming aboard.
He's
I was
moving
just-
up from Brooklyn, you know.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be here.
All
Didn't
right.
necessarily want to put him on the spot for his speech. So just a
That's
wave,
generous of
and
you, Sarah.
you will be hearing quite a bit from him in upcoming months.
All right, great. All right, anything else? Any other orders of business?
Darius, just a quick administrative note. We had previously shifted the board meeting next week from Thursday to Wednesday to accommodate some project scheduling and personal schedules, which obviously aren't as relevant now with everything going on, but we decided, barring any major issues right now, to keep the board meeting next Wednesday at 12:15. So I'll make sure that's abundantly clear when we circulate materials later this week.
Okay. Sounds good. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Tracy, second, Lee, all's in favor? Aye.
Hi.
See you next Wednesday.
Have a good day.
Thank you, guys.
You.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Be well.